So I just had like a 5-minute nap, which turned out to be an hour and a half. And I promised myself that I'd record this video today because it's been a while since we've spoken, and I really wanted to get through this big giant sketchbook, which, to be honest, I think there's 1 or 2 pages that I haven't finished in it, but it's as finished as it's ever going to be, which is good for me. So we're going to get through this. I hate those introductions where it's just like 5 or 10 minutes just focused on the one page. I thought that you see me for a little bit. And also, side note, those Pinterest and YouTube photographs of like, not YouTube, the Instagram photographs of like art studios that are all clean and like, isn't this just nice? And everything's white and the artist is like perfectly lit. No, this is an art studio right here. That's the kind of state everything's in. I'm sat right now covered in jam donut and cold coffee. But with that in mind, let's go review this big giant sketchbook. Ooh. Okay, I hope this is recording. These are my hands. All right, this is the Delusions Sketchbook, which is brilliant. I've already ordered another one, and I'm going to try and finish another one this year. It takes a lot of watercolor really, really well. The reason I picked this sketchbook is because, well, I think I'd already bought it, and it was stuck in a corner of my room somewhere. But it was when I practiced some watercolor on it, and it took the water really, really well without the paper getting too grainy. And the reason I sort of stuck with this is because I wanted to really get better at using watercolors. Before this sketchbook, I was pretty much just acrylics and markers, and that was it. So anyway, yeah, this is really good, really sturdy. It holds everything in. It comes with this elastic band, which do not attempt to sort of hide your pencils in there, because that won't work. Anyway, this is a quick little doodle on the front, which I should have done at the end when I finished the sketchbook, because it just got battered and stained and covered in coffee and tea and all that sort of stuff. Also, before I start showing you my artwork, if you're offended by boobs or boobies of any kind, I'm not the artist for you. So that's your chance to click off now. There we go. Inside is this little handy pocket, which really is helpful, actually, surprisingly helpful. And I've already taken the time to get everything out of there, so I'm not fumbling about in this video. These are done on hot press watercolor paper, and just ordinary markers and watercolor pencils as well, just for the extra little bits of detail and that sort of stuff. So I went through a phase of like trying to do one of these a day. I did sell a bunch actually, so I kind of like that, and I really should have stuck to like doing these with the whole masking tape on the side. Part of me loves the neatness of it, and then part of me also loves the fact when it goes all messy and just goes all over the edge and stuff. So these are a mixture of all of those, just some fantasy creatures. I don't know what happened to her other eye. She just sort of, she's got some problems. These are from Mermaid. I can't remember if I've told you that this sketchbook spans the course of about a year and a half. It's been a hugely transformative sketchbook. I started it in my last home. We moved house. I went through a horrendous creative block. This is what I mean by the whole having the, I kind of like it when it's a bit messy. I went through a whole 5-month creative block, and it's just been an absolute saviour, a companion in those times. So let's start, shall we? First page, I never draw on the first page. I think this was an art journal I was doing at some point. I ripped out a couple of pages because they just weren't going with what I wanted, and I wanted this to be a place just to practice my watercolours. Anyway, first page. This is a little scrappy bit I got from, I did a doodle before work and kept it, and I very much, I can see here how my colours are still a bit muted, and I'm trying to sort of experiment with everything. This was inspired by me and Stu were coming back from Greece, I think it was, and on the drive home late at night, all we saw were loads and loads of foxes in the streets. So, and I kind of love foxes. I'm still toying with the idea of starting my own sort of cartoon slash comic book thing, so I'm always doing a couple of character designs, and I'm never quite sure whether to make it like fantasy stuff or be a bit more realistic and just more narrative. Or these little dots are coloured in with felt tip pens, which are water. They're not the Copics or anything like that, so you will see felts in here, but a lot of the time it's water based. I'll find out what they are and put them in the description below. This is, I can't remember why I drew that. I was obviously going through something that day. I also drew a lot of notes. This is the back of a piece of cereal card, me trying to draw with felt tips. Not going so well. I do like her. I like the idea of the whole multiple eyes and stuff, but I was reading Saga, the comic at the time, which I'm absolutely in love with, and you'll see the influence there. This I drew because I actually remembered the instant I fell in love with Stuart, and I was just thinking about it one day and just drew that. I like that idea. Execution, not so much, but there we go. I live next to a couple of parks and the squirrels in there are always crazy. This is again me just experimenting with colour and trying to get everything. I'm hoping everything is in shot. Experimenting with a bit more colour. I'm just trying to get everything where it needs to be. This so nearly got painted over and coloured over, and just I was gonna do gouache and do a whole sort of black the whole thing out and maybe stick things on it. But I've decided to show the work I'm not most impressed with, and this was one of those ideas where when I had it, I was like, oh my god, this is such a good idea, Ryan. And then I drew it and it was like, what were you thinking? A lady falling through the sky with paper airplanes on her face. Well, paper airplanes will feature quite heavily in my work, though. They're kind of a symbol for me of like childlike peace or peaceful thoughts. In my old house, I had a frog pond. In my new house, the one I'm in now, I live right next to a giant pond full of ducks and swans and lots of other interesting animals. And recently, the frogs have all hatched from their spawn and tadpoles and all that sort of phase. And there was about 400 of the little buggers just leaping to freedom across the pond the other day, which was really cute. These I drew when I was watching, I think, the vampire movie Stakeland. I'm a big horror movie fan, and you'll see little influences of that in my work. This was before I started using felt tip, actually. This is just Pentel pocket brush pen, a tiny bit of bits of watercolour. I'm trying to get that. I can see in my own mind trying to get used to colour. This was another idea that I will revisit, actually, because I like the idea of birds flying through this sort of fairy lady, but it just didn't execute it that well. But that's what sketchbooks are for. They're just for getting the ideas down and being a bit hard on myself there. This was you might have seen something like this on my Instagram account, because this was for a test drawing for a client for a giant canvas, which took ages, but she wanted blue hair in that. But I think I'm actually going to rework or redo her, or I may just scan her in Photoshop and do something for like postcards and stuff, so we'll see. This was meant to be very much more rabbit with red eyes and sort of white hair, and I was going to shade in the white hair with blue, but the blue was too strong, so I ended up having to change the whole hair to blue. And I will say I have gone over this sketchbook recently just to top and tail everything, and this was one of the pages I topped and tailed just to make sure that it looked more in keeping with the rest of the stuff. I don't know, these are just sketches of random people. My favourite thing to do is actually sit in coffee shops and get ideas there, and I have this whole other stuff that I'm going to start working on soon. This was a character, again, just idea for this picture book I'm working on. This was just a doodle. I was obviously not feeling myself that. This was another experiment that was really clear in my mind's eye, and then when I put it on paper, it just just didn't work. But I think they're cute, and I like the idea, and I'm definitely going to revisit it and put it on canvas. I think I need to really get into the detail there. These are just some, I like the idea of leaves growing out of the hair and out of the third eye and all that stuff. Right, now this is the point of the sketchbook where the creative block kicked in fully, and I don't know whether it was a bit of depression, but I've had depression before, and this was nothing like that. It was just my brain just switched off creatively for about 5 months, and I still tried to work, and the work underneath this was abysmal. So I really couldn't bring myself to look at it, so I covered it in other sketches I did in my other sketchbooks. That I think is Posca? No, not Posca, what's it called? Pro Marker and watercolour pencil. So that seems to, I'm going to paint her up on a canvas, and I'm going to paint her up on a canvas. That's just a pencil drawing. Where am I going? Oh, I missed a page. That's a girl on Pinterest I saw, and I drew a little nest and some birds there. These did not work. This one I was trying to, I was watching RuPaul's Drag Race, as if you can't tell, with the giant blonde wig, and I meant to do like a light pink face, but again my use of watercolour not great at the time, and it just came out way too red. These are more ideas for the comic. This is a really old sketch in my old style. You can see I never used to draw eyebrows. That's a dragon head. Again, if you've been on my Instagram, you will have seen the finished version of that. Now this is where my creativity switched back on, and it literally was just like I woke up one morning and I just felt it again. And I think from this point in the sketchbook I can see my mind working again. I know like from an outside perspective, me and my friend Claire have had lots of conversations about this, that artists are rarely their own best critics, and they genuinely can't see the overall arc of their work. But personally, at this point, I can see my brain just starting to put things together and starting to play again. This I'm going to, and I think again you can see the piece, maybe that's quite symbolic, didn't think of that till now actually, about the piece coming back and everything starting to resurface. I'm painting this up soon actually, I've got the canvas primed and ready. Again, starting to get a bit more playful with colour. Creating little creatures in the hair and that sort of stuff. This was a big massive canvas I did ages ago, but I decided just to repaint her, just to keep momentum going. This is based on a lady who works, she doesn't live in our local coffee shop, she works there, and she brings me coffee, and she's fun, and she's like a little breath of light every morning when you go in. This was for a novel I wrote a couple of years ago now, and I'm just starting to sort of get used to that more of a narrative flow. That's just a dragon. See, I don't know whether you can, but I can just see my mind working differently at this point. That was a sketch that went horribly wrong, so I took something from, I don't know what I was drawing there, I don't know whether it was last year's Drawgust or I think it was last year's Inktober. Just wasn't going well. This was something that again I was going to paint over, but I kind of rescued it. It looks okay to me. It's not my favorite, but it looks okay. That's I made a sort of a conscious effort to try and draw a bloke because that's not really where I tend to go. This I started using a bit more reference. I just found a picture of this lady on Pinterest that I liked, so I drew her with these skulls. They really went wrong color-wise. They were meant to be sort of, again, off pink, but they came out mauve and salmon and just not where I needed them or wanted them. But it's another little fairy. These are again, I got this reference off Pinterest. I think I just typed in men's faces and started to draw them. This I think I'm going to paint this one up. I do like it. I like the idea. That's going to be fun. I did have this other idea as well of fairies coming out of flowers with sort of gas masks on. So I started to do some ideas and sketches for that. Still haven't quite got it right, but in my other sketchbooks I am getting closer to that idea. I want to do a big massive canvas with them on. Again, I think this was a Inktober prompt, or a Drawtober or something like that as well. I sometimes sketch on post-it notes. It was another prompt. I think the prompt was Rat Queen. I think she came out okay. I can't remember what that prompt was, but it definitely was one. I did write it down somewhere, but I've painted over it, so that's useful. Again, more ideas for the fairies coming out of flowers and roses, and I can just see it all coming together. This was another reference photo, and I think I was listening to something at the time that had the word octopus in it, so I just chucked the octopus in and around her. This was a guy who I was sketching in, again in the coffee shop, and he was just totally devoted and doting on his daughter, and I just thought it was adorable, so I had to draw him, and just watching him do that. This is I normally with my work I sort of outline it in black because I like that sort of cartoon feel, and if a little tip is if you put a thicker black line on the outskirts, it does just on the outskirts, not going over everything, just on there, it does make the image pop a little bit more. I think if I can find where I've done that somewhere, I'll show you in a bit. But when you don't put that black line on the outskirts, it makes it much more softer, which is something I wanted to explore here. I'm still not sure whether I might add filigree around these, but I think I'm quite happy with that for now. This was the one I didn't finish because I get waking dreams, which is kind of like lucid dreaming, except I'm completely awake. So if I get up to go to the loo in the middle of the night, my brain still dreams. So one night I was walking to the toilet, and the hallway I was walking down turned into a forest, and there were foxes running up and down the walls, and there were trees growing out of the carpet. I knew then that my brain was still dreaming, so I was kind of like, just do your thing, Ryan, and just get back to sleep so you can carry on. But I drew it anyway, and I just didn't really want to revisit that thought. You know, when a dream isn't actually that scary, but it's enough to be like, I don't want to go back there again. So that was that. That's sort of I tried to do a reference photo and mix it with some Pennywise stuff. I like the idea of using masks and stuff in my work, but I like that a little bit. So I think I might put that on a small canvas at some point. I have no idea why she's more... comparison combers are shit. That's what was happening that day. It does happen. Every artist, no matter what level, no matter what skill set they are, they will compare themselves to another artist and think, why did I even bother to pick up a pencil? Another lady, and then this is me trying to draw more men. There was this really cute gay couple in my local coffee shop, and they were really adorable, but they ended up looking a bit too similar. Whether that was my subconscious working that way, or whether I was concentrating more on one than the other, I'm not sure. Or is it because a lot of white gay couples end up fancying the people that look like them? That's a whole other issue that is for a different video. This is just sketching faces. I think I put this up on my page a few days ago. I didn't finish it until recently, just drawing. I think he was meant to be the prelude to him, but I much prefer him. I think he's a bit darker, a bit more feisty. I tried to do some pencil sketching in this sketchbook, and it is just not great. It's not great for pencil sketching. I think the pencil actually absorbs into the paper because I think it's a bit porous, I think is the right word. So I had to outline it in black just to make it even, but the pen I used was not waterproof, not waterproof, so I couldn't put watercolour over it. So I may do that at another time. Me playing a bit more. That's the reference to the outline in black. If you just go on the outskirts in a thicker black line, it makes the image stand out just a little bit more. That's this kid who, in my new house, I'm on a university route. They walk through the park to the uni, and there's this kid who walks past my house every single day, and he always looks like he's about to burst into tears. He always looks like he's on a mission, as if the weight of the world is on his shoulders. God bless him. I hope he's okay, but he inspired this drawing while sat on the sofa one day. That's another little doodle I did before work. Yeah, she's outlined in felt tip pen, and I'm starting to I think the yellow I put on some parts of the faces sometimes shows up a bit stronger on the camera, so if the faces are really looking overtly yellow, then I think that's just the Inktense, I think it is, pencils. Felt tip sketch, watercolour. That's another lady who I saw walking around locally. Just this really adorable Asian lady with pink hair. Just a random sketch of another bloke I saw. This is another guy who works in the coffee shop. It's not a very accurate caricature, but he asked me to bake him. We got talking about vegan cookies, and his girlfriend's a vegan, so he asked me to bake some for him for their anniversary, and so I did. Okay, he's a nice guy. A little idea, just a guy eating a sandwich. I can tell here that my use of colour is starting to improve. Like I said, I live next to a giant pond, so I wondered what creatures would live in the pond, and I may explore that theme a little bit more the longer I live here. We'll just see. Her, I'm not sure if she'd be a good sticker actually, so I might make her into a sticker. If you like it, just let me know. You know, if you think it's a good idea. I need to get better at my merchandising. I think that's a reference photo, or it might be a dude I saw in the coffee shop, not sure. She's definitely a girl I saw locally, and I made her backpack into a creature. I think she's somebody from a TV program. That was the reference there. I'm starting to use more creatures and little stuff in my work there, just to represent feelings, I guess, or emotions. I don't know what that one was, but there we go. Also, I'm still actually angry that Buffy is over, and one of my favourite episodes is The Gentleman. So I was just drawing him. I got it on my list somewhere to do a whole series of Buffy villains, which I think would be fun. See if I can get this right. As you can see, I watch a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race. When I draw, the queens are so creative, and they're just like a house of ideas everywhere. That's a good day. I draw a lot of people drinking coffee, because that's the way I cope with life. I'm experimenting with sort of widening the faces there, and this creature turns up. And when he's all black, I don't think he's a happy emotion, but when he's different colours, he's kind of a good one, so I like that. I'm really into the whole sort of purple and orange contrast at the moment on the colour wheel. I remember painting this recently. I think it might have been last weekend. I jump back and forth on the sketchbooks as well. I don't do them consecutively because I like to make sure that the pages rest in between, which I kind of learned the hard way because I completely drawn out one sketchbook that isn't Delusions, and when I've done watercolour on it, it doesn't take the watercolour very, very well. But I'm stubborn and I've drawn out the sketchbook, so I'm going to finish it anyway, and if it doesn't fall apart, I will show it on this channel. What was going on this weekend? Don't argue with someone who has already made their mind up about who you are. Love them anyway, then let them go. I got a feeling I know what that's about, and if you've been on my Instagram or Facebook recently, you might know what that's about too. But I've put it to bed, and it's we're not going there. But I'm just experimenting a bit more. Little bits, colours, throwing stuff together, seeing what works. I like her. I don't know why, but halfway through this book I stopped drawing eyes. I think I got into the whole witchy theme because it's sort of like ghosts and fairies and that sort of stuff, and I just like the eyes being blank now and again, because like it's a very definite shift. Like halfway through I stopped drawing the insides of the eyes, which is kind of something I actually really love, so I'm not sure what's going on there. This I think is based on a bloke, this shouldn't really say his name. This is based on a bloke who, again, I think he works locally, and he's always just very nice to me. And like when you work from home and you're on your own all day, you kind of have to you appreciate when somebody is sort of chatty and friendly and nice to you. So I drew him. This is, again, sat in the car. I think I come to the end of the sketchbook now. This, I sat in the coffee shop and I watched a guy on a first date, which is my favourite thing to do. It's my favourite thing to do. He was just nervous and you could see that he really liked her, and she was just deciding whether he was nice, and it was just really, really sweet. And the same sitting down in this coffee shop, this little kid was just screaming for more cake. So I drew him as well because he had the most fantastic ears I've ever seen in my life. They were huge. This is just a girl holding a crystal, and I think it's the end of this giant sketchbook. Yeah, I think she came out okay. I added the orange and the pink after I'd done some of these, so you can see a little bit of bleed there, but I think she came out okay. And I think that's the end of that. There's no more. There's no more. That's it. I should have really gotten into that by the whole fin thing, really, isn't it? No. Anyway, if you're thinking of buying one of these and you use a lot of watercolour, I would definitely recommend. I do think that the next sketchbook I use, my goal I set myself is going to be to do more gouache, because I haven't really used that much or perfected that much, so I'm going to try that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, and chat to you in a sec. I'll have to say a quick farewell because the battery is running out on this camera, but I hope you enjoyed that. If you do, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will endeavour to bring you more videos as and when I go along. And I think that's it for now. Go check out my website. It's got tons of my online portfolio and sketchbooks and all that sort of stuff on there. And just thank you for tuning in. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or anything you want me to record, let me know. Speak to you soon. Love you very much. Take care. Bye.